WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. If you're a news junkie, you might remember a story from 1986, early on in the year, just shortly after. I think it was shortly after the explosion of the Challenger, right? Wasn't it shortly after that? There was an assassination of Olof Palme, the Swedish prime minister. It took place right in the streets, right? And nobody knew who did it. Well, let's find out more about that. Jan Stocklassa is on the phone. He's a journalist who focuses on large-scale conspiracies in international politics.
Yes.
He's also a former diplomat and the founder of Metro, which is a newspaper in Prague. He's the co-producer of the movie and television series Stieg Larsson, The Man Who Played with Fire, and that is the name of the book. Right? Do I have that right?
Yes.
The Man Who Played with Fire?
Yes.
Jan Stocklassa, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Good morning, Jan. How are you?
Good morning, Larry. Yes, you're perfectly correct.
And where are you right now? Just curious.
I'm in Stockholm. It's late afternoon in here, and it's a chilly October afternoon.
Yeah, and now when Olof Palme was assassinated, this was right after the Challenger exploded, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, and right before the Chernobyl accident also. So
okay.
These were exciting times, end of the Cold War.
And so I'm sure that in your part of the world, the assassination was huge news, but we were probably still talking about the Challenger explosion, because we talked about that for months.
Yeah, I think it hopefully was a bit of a big news in the U.S. also. I've seen some CBS recordings and
oh yeah.
So yeah.
I'm just saying that for the average person who doesn't do news. Now, Robert and I do news, so we sort of are engulfed in it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So tell me, what did you discover that leads to the Stieg Larsson part of this?
Well, the assassination of our prime minister is still unsolved. But what I discovered was that Stieg Larsson, the crime writer behind the Millennium trilogy and the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, was actually doing real research and coming very close to a solution only 1 year after the killing.
Really? And were the law enforcement people at that time interested in what he found?
Well, for that year, the second year of the investigation, they were. The first year, they went in completely wrong direction. The second year, they came really close to solve it, and then suddenly they had a new head of investigation, and he just led them in the completely wrong direction. They found the lone killer, very much like the Lee Harvey Oswald theory, or character, mm-hmm. And that was what we were told to believe for 3 decades.
But
recently, the authorities said that that's not the case. It was not a lone killer.
But reading your account, it seems that Stieg Larsson wasn't just worried about Sweden, but he was worried about all of the events that were going on around the globe.
Yeah, he looked at several different theories, but finally he came to the conclusion that it was the apartheid regime of South Africa that was instigated the murder. They used a middleman in Cyprus, a Swedish citizen, and they found helpers in Sweden that they were using as patsies in the killing. So that's the theory that he laid out.
So what did it do for Stieg Larsson? Did it put him in somebody's crosshairs? Did somebody want to do away with him?
He died by a heart attack when he was 50 years old, before he started to meet the people that he thought were involved. Uh-huh. And that's 10 years later, I found his forgotten archive, and I decided to do what he would have done if he had lived.
Oh my gosh. And forgive me for being a conspiracy theorist, but did the heart attack seem suspicious, or do you think that was completely for real and natural?
Well, that was a conspiracy of McDonald's and the like. He was eating too much fast food and not taking care of himself. So
oh my God!
It was a regular heart attack.
Okay.
Some of your characters also, it's like a timeline for the events that were very, very violent at the end of the Cold War.
Yes. That's what I'm convinced about, that played a role in the killing. You have the end of the Cold War, and it's very much connecting to what you would probably call the Iran-Contra affair, which was much bigger. South Africa played a really important role in that as a trading point for weapons and oil to and from Iran.
And when you were doing your research, you actually spoke to different people. How did you gain their trust that this was going to be the book that it turned out to be?
Well, you would be surprised. It's usually you have to contact the people and just politely ask, can we meet? And 9 times out of 10 they agree to meet you, and then you have the foot in the door, and then you can just continue acting politely, and then you get a lot of information. So I managed to meet murderers, agents, security agents, and they usually want to tell a lot.
Did the Prime Minister's wife have any information that helped at all? Or was she kind of uninvolved in any of that?
She died a year ago, actually, and she was highly traumatized by the killing. She was just next to him. She was actually scratched by a second bullet, and she died without knowing who killed her husband.
And then you also have Elizabeth Salander in your book also.
Yeah, when I came towards the end of my investigation, I realized I need to do an undercover operation, and I found a Czech woman. At the time I didn't realize, but she was actually very much like the Elizabeth Salander character, stepping into this very dangerous situation, meeting with a person that I'm convinced is deeply involved in the killing of our Prime Minister, and meeting him for several days, actually.
Are you nervous about your own safety?
I'm looking out. Yeah. I have my ways of knowing what the people are doing that are involved in this killing, and I'm keeping my eyes open.
The book is called The Man Who Played with Fire. It is right now #1 in a couple different categories on Amazon. If I could just brag about it a little bit, it's #1 in biographies. Biographies of Murder and Mayhem, #1 in Murder and Mayhem True Accounts, and #3 in Biographies and Memoirs in the Kindle store. It's getting really good reviews in addition to selling really well. Are you getting other people giving you additional information that maybe you couldn't find? I mean, you did an amazing amount of research for the book, first of all, but are other people suggesting things that maybe are not included in the book?
Yeah, that's what's really exciting, actually, that I'm getting a lot of information. The book has been published all in all in 27 languages, in more than 50 countries, and I'm getting information from many different places. And now I'm looking forward for what I can get from the US and the UK when it's published in English.
And it's absolutely amazing that his records, you had said, were kept in cardboard boxes, and that they weren't just discarded.
Yeah, it was like a treasure, opening up this door and seeing that there were 20 boxes full of documents, memos, letters, everything, and that was one of those defining moments. I knew what I would do for a few years to come.
Who was the man who saved Sweden? Toward the back of the book, there's a chapter with that title. Who was that?
That's according to one of the people that were involved. That's from an interview that I did with this person who was actually collecting money from Swedish business against our Prime Minister, and he thinks that the person who killed Olof Palme, was the person who saved Sweden.
Oh my gosh!
So that's a quote from him. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there are a lot of crazy people out there.
Thank you for being on the air with us. If I have a listener who would like the copy of the book that was sent to me, call right now. You may call 622-9622, and I'll be able to answer it on the air and put the book aside for one person at random. The rest of us have to go buy it. I found it on Amazon. It's available as a hardcover, softcover, paperback. I guess that is a softcover, Kindle, and audiobook. Do you have a website you'd like to direct us to?
Yeah, www.stocklassa.com. That's STOCKLASSA, and the same thing as my writer's page on Facebook, Stocklassa.
Okay, very good. Let me give the book away. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Vernon.
Vernon, you got it. It'll be waiting for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, you got a hot book here. I had a lot of people wanting it just then. Jan, thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville.
I'm Chris Foster. European Union Ambassador Gordon Sondland's been blocked by the State Department from being questioned today by 3 House committees. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff says it's more evidence of obstruction by the Trump administration and that Ambassador Sondland was a key player in efforts to
obtain a commitment from Ukraine to investigate a bogus conspiracy theory about the 2016 election, as well as Joe Biden and his son.
Ohio Republican Jim Jordan says the administration's decision is
based on the unfair and partisan process that Mr. Schiff has been running.